Only been happy when I'm rapping. Fans only seem happy when I'm snapping. Talk about no food inside a cabinet. Only want shit so I can stack it. And the fans say I got a fucking accent. Yo.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Valentine's Day edition of Awkward Situations. It's the series where you guys write comments about awkward situations that are happening or that have happened in your lives, embarrassing stories, or anything else you want to talk about. And then I take a few of those comments and I talk about them in these episodes. We have 4 great awkward situations today. None of them have anything to do with Valentine's Day or relationships necessarily, but it's a Valentine's Day edition because today is Valentine's Day. And if you're watching this instead of on a date with your Valentine, I'm sorry, but I'm here for you. I cannot bring you the love or the joy that a woman and or man and or chair, if you're into that, would. You know, people date chairs nowadays, but I can do my best, and we're going to have a one-sided 30-minute conversation, approximately. And I hope you enjoy it. I got a lot of updates on the last episode of Awkward Situations, so I'm going to share 2 of those today. One's quick, one's a little more detailed, and then we will get right into the awkward situation. So let's start with our first update today. First update from an awkward situation in December about a gentleman who was going to have a bachelor party or a birthday party. I don't remember which one it was. It doesn't matter. And his coworkers wanted him to go to a strip club. He was nervous about it. I said, don't be nervous. It'll probably be a fine experience. If you really don't want to go, you don't have to go. But yeah, I linked the situation below if you want to watch it in its entirety and what I said. I don't even remember. But here's the update. Hey, Joel, I just realized I forgot to give an update for my awkward situation back in December. I was the one whose coworkers wanted to take me to the strip club, and I was worried I would be super awkward about it. Well, we planned to go after work one night, but we ended up not going at all. Everyone blew the main guy off. I'm sorry that this is sort of an anticlimactic update, but I'm sure they will try to get me to go when I come back in the summer, so your advice will still be helpful. Thanks, Joel. Well, I gotta say, for all the ways I expected that one to end, giving oral sex to the guy who wanted to go to the strip club was not the way I expected it to go. And maybe I'm misreading it. You know, when I blow a guy off, I'm usually trying to get something out of him. I don't particularly like the taste of semen. But that's what you chose to do. I'm just kidding, obviously. I understand that you blew the main guy off. You didn't want to go with him to the strip club, and you guys all went to play laser tag or something. It's whatever. You know, I don't think it would be a big deal. I don't particularly like to hang out in strip clubs, but I don't find them to be terrible establishments unless they're in a bad part of town, in which case you might want to be weary and maybe bring a taser or something. Next update, follow-up. This is a follow-up to my situation from the episode Tough Stuff. I was the 4th and final situation. Again, if you want to watch the situations for a second time or for the first time, if you missed that episode, I've linked them in the description. I really appreciate what you said and that you took the time to give me some advice. I know feeling guilty about what happened when I was so young isn't right, but that's how I felt in the moment. I don't really feel that way anymore, which is good. I felt this way for a long time, for as long as I can remember, to be honest, and I feel like I'm falling and falling, but I've got no parachute to save me. I've been contemplating going back to therapy and talking to my parents about going back, but I don't know how to tell them, and I get anxious and scared and back out and say it's nothing. I don't have motivation to do anything either. I try to be active, to do things to distract myself, but obstacles are preventing that from happening, both mental and physical. I know this wasn't much of a follow-up, but more of an addition to my original comment, and yes, Joel, you and the rest of the guys have been the best distraction I could have asked for, making me laugh and happy again for short periods of time, or when I binge all of your guys' videos. It's nice to escape reality for a bit. Sorry for the long update. Keep up the content. I appreciate you sharing an update and kind of clarifying your original situation. I do really encourage you to try to find distractions. So I know you say it's difficult and you get scared to tell your parents that you feel like you need help. And I am speaking from a position of experience in this situation. I have to be honest with you guys. I have had a very, very, very good life. I have had a very easy life. There are a lot of things I read in the comments that are so disheartening and sad. When I started the series, my motivation was to talk about awkward moments in my life and in the lives of my viewers, embarrassing stories, and as we've gone on through this series, it's turned into deeper, more serious stuff, naturally. And I realize when I read some of these comments how lucky I am. I cannot relate to a lot of them about just very sad, common situations that happen to a lot of people. But I can relate to feeling very depressed, being clinically depressed, and having to ask for help. That is something I've had to do in my life, and it's something a lot of people have had to do. There is unfortunately still a stigma around this that is preventing you yourself from wanting to ask for help. If you had a broken arm, You wouldn't be like, hey, Mom, I got to ask you something. I'll just put a Band-Aid on it. Like, you wouldn't even think about it. And having difficulty getting through the day is something that everyone experiences. Your brain is more important than your arm. It's the engine for your entire body. It's, the center of who you are as a person, who you identify with comes from your brain. So I just hope you can break this stigma. I can do nothing else but ask you to try. That's the best I can do, and say that I know it's difficult. There's a lot of things in life that are difficult. I struggle at times. I am doing, in this next month, the most adult shit I have ever done in my life. I am in the middle of house hunting. I'm getting my taxes done for the next week. I'm trying to decide what I am doing on the business side of YouTube. I am re-signing a lease or deciding to not re-sign a lease for my apartment, some other more personal stuff I wouldn't even want to share. So it's just like, I feel extremely anxious right now. You might even be able to tell that in my voice. Life is not easy. It's easier sometimes than others. Some people's lives are better than others. Again, I'm so thankful for the gifts I've had in life. And if we all look at our lives, even in the most difficult situations, I think we can appreciate the good times as well as the bad and try to learn from the bad times. But it's not easy. And if you can't ask for help, that is the key to improving yourself. You need help. And if I don't want to sound too harsh. I guess I think my own anxiety is coming out in my advice to you. I hope I don't have a harsh tone, but I hope you can find a way to ask for advice and not be afraid. Just anyone out there who really needs help, just don't be afraid. And I appreciate the update, and I hope things get better. Let's move on to the first awkward situation right now. Hey, Joel. So about 10 years ago, I'm 33 now, I was in a local band and we had a really large following. At one of our local performances with about 150 people in a small room, my mother, who struggled with addiction then and still to this day, was attending. Between songs, I was bending down to fix something on my rig, and she very loudly from the front row in front of me yelled, "Pull your pants up," and reached up, and she pulled my pants up in front of everyone. How in the hell would you have reacted and dealt with that situation? I still have no idea how to process that embarrassment 10 years later. Now, do I not tell her when I am performing? Oh, sorry. Now I do not tell her when I am performing. Figured that's a start. I really enjoyed this situation. I don't see as many embarrassing stories in the comments as I would like to. And this one really hit me in the relatable feels, because while I was never in a band, my parents would watch me at sporting events, mainly basketball, and I can relate to the feeling of being kind of embarrassed by how my parents act. Although my parents were never terrible. I think if any of you have been at high school sporting events, you can tell who the disruptive, annoying parents are very clearly by their volume and sometimes their abrasiveness towards other spectators. And my rule with my parents was that if they are going to say something in the crowd, I do not want to be able to hear it from the court. And I obviously don't want them to get into any fights with people, but that wasn't their type of personality. There was one instance where I remember hearing my mother when I was on the basketball court, and I felt quite embarrassed at the time. I was going up for a rebound on a transition situation. So it's a lot of people running towards the basket very quickly. And I was going up for a rebound for a player on the other team that missed a layup. So just picture me running and kind of flying towards the hoop to grab this rebound real quick before another player from the other team tries to follow it up in some way, shape, or fashion. And the player who would have tried to follow up, had I not been there, undercut my legs. So he essentially ran under my legs, and I fell very hard onto the ground. I could hear my mother shriek from the audience as if she had just witnessed me being murdered. Now, it probably looked a lot worse than it felt. It didn't hurt terribly badly. I am a lengthy person, and I'm sure I made many large sounds when I fell on the ground, like a giant being toppled by an army of small elves. I probably sounded like a tree falling in the forest, and it was really loud. It didn't really hurt me, but when I heard my mother shriek in the crowd, it really hurt my confidence because it was so loud that I could hear it from the court, which violates my rule of not hearing her from the court. And I got up as quickly as possible. The trainer came out, and he told me to stay on the ground, but I got up as quickly as possible, and I got on the bench, and we worked on whatever issue the trainer thought I had on the bench. I was back in the game within a minute or two, but it was an embarrassing moment, to say the least. Yours is much more embarrassing because you were in a rock show, and you have this badass persona that you wouldn't normally have at home. Rock stars act much differently on stage than they do at home when they're eating cereal. And I'm sure you were in that rock star mode, although you were doing a little maintenance on your kit. You had to bend down, but you still probably bent down in a really badass way. And your mom's like, pull those pants up. And she grabs your pants, and it's very awkward. I don't know how I would react to that. I mean, I would love my parents for being there and supporting me. I've experienced this secondhand through my friends, Packy from the Spectators Collective. Their parents they have been at some of their shows before that I have also been at. And I was just thinking to myself, man, if I was sitting in a room with my parents while they were watching my videos, which is kind of, the same situation, their parents are sitting in the room while they perform their songs, I think they would be prideful, but then there's some things I would cringe at that they would watch in the videos and be like, ooh, you don't understand that joke. That's kind of weird. I was really inappropriate there. So I appreciate you sharing that. It's kind of funny that you don't, I don't tell mom when the rock shows are now, but maybe she'll get better in time. It's one of those interesting situations where you act differently at home than you would at a show, but your mom doesn't see the rock star at the show. She just sees her son. So I thought that was endearing and funny, and I can definitely relate to that. Awkward situation. Hi, Joel and whoever is reading this. I'm an underground hip-hop artist, and I'm performing my first show in a couple of weeks. I love making music, but there's a problem. I am a very shy person. I get stage fright and feel like I'm drowning. If you have any tips or tricks on how to stop stage fright, I'd love to hear them. Thanks. First of all, I want to commend you for even having the courage to get on stage and share your art with the world. I know it's a frightening thing. This is probably one of the most common fears, but it will be a great feeling once you get off that stage, whether you have a good set or a bad set, to have the courage to get up there and go through with it and learn and sometimes win and sometimes lose on that stage in front of people in a high-stakes scenario. You learn a lot about yourself. And I think you're really going to enjoy the experience, even though it's very frightening right now. Before I get into my thoughts on this, I did want to plug something that relates to this. I am most likely going to be on my friend's podcast on February 19th. It's a Monday. I'll be sure to link it on my Twitter especially, and maybe I'll try to find some way to promote it on my YouTube channel. It is the Spectators Podcast, I believe is the name. Moti and Packy, my local friends who are independent artists and have an independent record label. They talk about things relating to independent artists and music. If you are interested in those topics, whether you want to be an independent artist or just interested in the music industry in general and the perspective on the music industry from people who are in it, it's a great podcast to listen to. So I wanted to plug that. I'll link the most recent episode in the description below. And I hope to bring up this topic to them when I am on the episode because it's something that interests me as well. It's a common fear, stage fright, and getting up on stage and talking to people. I've had to do it before. My dad has to speak in front of audiences, so I've had him help me, and he's had some great tips. I think it's a really common fear because it's really hard to practice being on stage. There's a few things in life that you can only practice by going through them. I'm experiencing this right now. Obviously, this isn't a high-stakes situation, but I'm house hunting right now with my wife, as I've shared. And it's kind of hard to practice looking for a house. You kind of just have to do it. And being on stage is a similar thing. And you can't practice all of the situations that you could go through on stage, whether your mic cuts out or you forget words. Things are going to happen when you're on stage. But the more you get on stage, the more comfortable you are with it. Even if you still get slightly nervous after your 30th time on stage, Packy said on a recent podcast, he still gets some butterflies before he goes on stage, but it's probably a mix of fear and anticipation, getting excited for what's about to happen, but also being nervous because it's a situation in which you want to be alert and be present. But it's not something that you can learn by practicing in a safe space. You have to go up there and do it. So don't feel scared of making mistakes. This is going to sound weird, but feel excited to go through that experience because it's not going to kill you. Picture the worst possible scenario. Your microphone cuts out. There's some big fan above the stage that sucks all your clothes off and you're naked. Well, that doesn't even seem plausible, but just, I mean, picture the worst possible scenario, any embarrassing scenario or anything that you're fearful of. It's not going to kill you. It's not going to be the end of the world. And getting on stage and getting those reps is very important. I want to bring up another thing that has really helped me. Actually, two more things. One is confidence. Confidence is a funny thing. Confidence is something that can be faked. You can have this bravado and this confidence in yourself. You can show this confidence in yourself even when you don't feel it inside of yourself. That fake it until you make it thing works with confidence. I've had to do that before. I've been in scenarios where I knew that you don't feel you feel like you're not supposed to be there. Sorry if I'm stumbling over my words. I just have a lot of thoughts on the subject and I would love to talk it out with some friends. But you feel like I'm not supposed to be here. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm this, I'm that. You just need to project confidence and project that you know what you're doing, and then people in that environment will get comfortable in that you know what you're doing. And one way to help you feel like you're knowing what you're doing is preparing for what you're doing. Preparation is key. To prepare for things you're going to say between songs, how you're going to transition from song to song, to know your set list forward and backwards, to be meticulous about how you are going to operate on stage, maybe even record yourself if you can. Look at yourself in the mirror while you are performing these songs and really perform the songs in your bedroom. Don't just have in your head that you're going to go through this song, that song. Meticulously prepare to a point where if anything happens, you have a slight idea even on how to deal with it. Obviously, don't work yourself up. Don't lose sleep over this. Sleep is important. Having a normal life outside of this is important, but preparation is important for getting on stage. I mean, you're going to present to people. You want to present the best possible version of yourself. It's not cool to go on stage and just be like, I don't know, we're just going to just play the fucking song, whatever it is, and then you perform. I mean, you got to, have a plan. Preparation helps. And I mentioned it in preparation, but my dad always recommends filming yourself when you're preparing and when you're on stage, because your perception of yourself and how you actually look is often very different. I've found that myself being on stage before and being on YouTube filming myself and then reading the comments talking about how I look or a certain tick I do. There's always some little thing that you can work out by watching yourself on film, as hard as it is to do. I find it very cringy to watch myself, but I think you would find it very helpful. So I recommend you do that if at all possible, but preparation and faking confidence is key. Next awkward situation. Hey Joel, I have been dating my girlfriend for a year now and I can't seem to connect to her parents. I have a single mother who absolutely adores my girlfriend, and I wish I could somewhat say the same thing about me and her parents. However, I cannot. Her parents are both teachers and also involved in the church. Her father is a pastor. Recently, for no solicited reason, they took her phone and read our text messages and found out we have had sex together. I had to have a long talk with the mother and father, and while I feel like it went better than I thought it would, her parents try avoiding me still. They don't invite me to family things like dinners or even Thanksgiving. And when I'm at their home, her father stays upstairs and her mom ignores me. I really want her parents to like me, and I'm having trouble trying to make it happen. How should I approach this without offending their broken trust and potentially making matters worse? Any advice would help me. LOL, I'm stuck. Also, you run an A1 channel, hombre. Certainly an awkward situation, something we have covered before in one shape or another, the relationship between a person who is dating another person and that person's parents, usually a male scenario, because that's a lot of my viewership and something I can personally relate to, being caught doing inappropriate things with a girlfriend at a younger age, and the parents, unsurprisingly, not acting very happy about it. And as I get older toward parent age, I highly recommend that you try to put yourself in the shoes of those parents. You mentioned they are very religious, obviously, if the father's a pastor, so that plays into it a bit, but just a parent in general. If he was a hired assassin as a career, you don't want to face the reality that your children are growing up. I like that you said that you did address the issue with them, and it went better than you thought it would, because if you were asking me how to address the issue, I would say you just have to do it, and it will probably go better than you think it will, because you always picture the worst possible scenario in most fearful life situations, and then the worst possible scenario, lo and behold, doesn't often happen because it's the worst possible scenario. So you don't have to worry about that 9 times out of 10. You got the hard part out of the way. You faced the situation head on, and now you're just asking how to move forward. And my advice to you is just to keep on keeping on. There's no magical thing you can do here other than to continue to treat the daughter of these two parents with love and respect. And in time, her parents will hopefully either forget about this scenario, or it won't bother you as much, because there's no magical thing you can say to take away the fact that you guys had sex, and either they're going to be okay with that or they're not going to be okay with that. I can't relate to the parents being super religious. I can't relate to that aspect of it. Maybe that's something the other commenters could reflect on. My parents, while I went to Catholic school as a younger child and went to public school as an older child, I would consider my parents to be pretty liberal with, by that I don't mean politically, I mean just they don't care too much about a lot of stuff as long as my siblings and I are respectful. That stuff doesn't really bother them too much. They're not super old school parents in that sense. So I probably have a mother more similar to your mother. And that would frustrate me if I couldn't relate to the parents, because I really value my relationship with Megan's family. It's one of the reasons I wanted to get married to Megan, because I wanted her family to be in my life for the rest of my life, or the rest of their lives. And while that's important to me, the most important thing is my relationship with Megan. If you take away every other person on the planet Earth, I chose Megan. It's not a scenario where I like that cheeseburger so much because it comes with the sweet potato fries. I'm choosing the cheeseburger because I like the cheeseburger. That's a weird analogy. I just had the best cheeseburger yesterday that I've had in Michigan. So damn is it on my mind. But you're choosing her. While you may like to have a better relationship to her parents, the only way that you can get to that position, if you can get there at all, is in time. When time passes, we forget about a lot of things as a society. Time heals all wounds, probably the most often repeated thing on this series. So I hope that you can just keep doing what you're doing. This is one of those things where I don't have any great advice to give. I just wanted to share this with everyone to say sometimes you just got to keep on keeping on. And time heals all wounds. Hopefully you have a better update for me in a month or two if you feel like sharing. Let's go on to the last awkward situation right now. Last awkward situation says, "Hi, Joel. I'm a freshman in high school, and I told my parents that I want to become a professional gamer / streamer / YouTuber. They basically shrugged off what I want to do as my job, and they started talking about other jobs and playing sports. They want me to become what they imagine in their minds me becoming. My mom wants me to get a real job, and my dad wants me to go to the Marines or play football so he can ride on the money I will make. I'm afraid I'm going to end up the screwball of the family. My brother and sister are both really smart. I'm a B-average student. Please help me. Any advice will help. Love you lots, Joel. Thanks." A couple of things to address in this awkward situation. Let's start with the end first, that you're worried about being the screwball of your family because your brother and sister are both really smart and you're a B-average student. Comparing yourself to your siblings or comparing yourself to what your parents have done is not a scenario in which you're going to end up feeling very happy about yourself. And in general, it's just not very productive. First of all, you're a freshman in high school, so there's plenty of time for you to right the ship and get good grades if you want to do that and want to focus on doing that, which I highly recommend doing. But there's going to be many scenarios in your life, in your professional life, in your personal life, where people are better than you at things. And that's okay. Starting to accept that now, and starting to just worry about what you're doing and what makes you personally happy will lead you to be a more confident, more productive human being in the future. Every day I wake up, I know that there are YouTubers on the platform that are better than me, that make more money than me. There are people who edit videos better than me. My brother is going to be the first one to graduate from college of my siblings, and he is younger than me. He is going to get a very good job. I could play this game all day if I want to and just sit in bed and cry. But at the end of the day, if I were to do that, it would be a waste of my life, and my time is the most valuable asset I have. And to spend my time thinking about what other people are doing is a waste of the most valuable thing I have in my life, my time. And the only way that I can be a better person and be someone that those other people envy, that my siblings envy, or I guess in a positive connotation that my siblings look up to, is to use my time effectively. I don't always do that, but I strive to. And if you're using your time effectively, I think your parents can respect that as well. Now, let's go back to the first part of the awkward situation, wanting to be a professional gamer / streamer / YouTuber. Again, you're 14 years old. You're a freshman in high school, 14, 15. I don't know what you are, but you're around that age. My potential career interests changed multiple times when I was in high school. I believe when I was your age, I wanted to be a journalist. And when I found out how much journalists make, I kind of moved away from that. I guess I didn't really find out how much journalists make. I just know it's a tough industry to break into and to hold a steady job in. But I did participate in newspaper throughout all of high school, and it was one of my favorite things that I did in high school. So it was still an interest I carried and something I really loved. I wanted to be in the sports marketing industry. I don't feel I really have the personality for that after doing a couple of job shadowing things, and I wanted to be in advertising, which is kind of akin to what I do now, and it's what my father did when he first started in his life and career. And I wanted to, what else did I want to be? Well, in middle school, I thought I was going to be a cartoonist, which is well, actually, no, that was more like 5th grade. I thought I was going to be a cartoonist. I thought I was going to be an astronaut in elementary school. I mean, you think you're going to be a bunch of things. I would say don't worry about that right now, but it's good to keep a running tally of what your passions are. You are so far away from graduating. I will say it goes by quick. I've said that multiple times. Don't take it for granted, but at the same time, live in the moment. You don't need to worry about what you're going to do with the rest of your life when you're 14. I cannot describe to you the emotional and intellectual changes you are going to go through in the next 4 years of your life, let alone the difference between 18 and, let's say, 22. The difference between 18 and 14 is large. The difference between 18 and 22 is large in terms of what you're interested in. Maybe not so much the core makeup of yourself and those core interests that you have, but what you think you're going to do with your life is going to change a lot over the next 5-10 years. So don't worry so much about that. Just keep a running tally of your interests. And if you want to be a gamer, streamer, or YouTuber, anyone watching this, even if you're not 14 years old, I would always say to be pragmatic with that interest. Because as a lot of replies, I was kind of disappointed in some of the replies to you. They were really negative, and I think they were in the right place. They were well-meaning. They were just a little negative. There were a lot of replies like, you know, you can't make any money in YouTube. YouTube's dying. This and that, and all this other stuff. What I would say is, we are changed. Our country and our world, moreover, our world more than our country, is changing, and it's changing in the sense that my uncle was able to work in the automotive industry for his entire life and retire. No one in our generation is going to have the same job until they die. If they do, it would be a very, very, very rare occurrence. It's a rare occurrence for people currently in the workforce. Older people, maybe even like my dad's age. He's changed jobs twice, and that's probably lower than average for his age. And we need to diversify our interests, continue to learn, and continue to grow, because it's a fact of life for people in high school now and for people my age and younger. You're going to change your job multiple times throughout your life because automation is happening. New industries are popping up rapidly with the advent of the internet. There are constantly new jobs. There's constantly new opportunities. I'm constantly having to learn new things and adapt in my own field. And I'm, while doing that, thinking of backup plans to the current career I have. That is the new workforce. That is the new way of having a job. Thinking about a different job while focusing on that job, having a backup plan. You're not going to work in the same industry for the rest of your life. So if that's in your head, get it out of your head right now. That doesn't mean you don't focus on what your hobbies and interests are. That means you clutch them and hold on to those even more and adapt those to find out what you like that are kind of related to those industries. Hey, I'm kind of interested in streaming and gaming. Maybe I would be interested in the radio field, or maybe I would be interested in that field, this field. So you just have to really break that. And it's, by the way, it's hard to do. I cannot do it myself. Having a quote-unquote normal job. To me, a normal job is working in a factory for 40 years until you die, or working in an office for 40 years until you die, or not die. I keep saying that. It's make it such a dire situation until you retire and then die. But that is the past normal. Let's live in the present. Let's talk about the future. That's not the reality for the majority of the people in the current high school generation and beyond. Focus on your grades, get good grades, and really think about what you like to do. Don't worry so much about what you're going to do with your life. But again, I feel like I went back to this. I feel like I said this, and then I left it, and I want to go back to it. Be pragmatic. YouTube, while it's not impossible to break into YouTube, it's very difficult to make money on YouTube. So you could have that as a hobby or interest, but have another job before you really commit to that full time. If you are passionate about that and you feel like you want to do it, give it your all, of course, but you have to live as well. I would not, as a parent, someone who was successful on YouTube, if I had a child who wanted to do YouTube or whatever the equivalent is of YouTube in 2041 or whenever my kid would ask me this question, I would say, yeah, you can do that, but you got to have a job too, or you got to do chores. You can't just do that. You can't just, I mean, people do it. People are like sell all their goods and go be an actor, but I could imagine and understand why a lot of parents would not support that, or any career where you would just sell everything and be essentially homeless or sleeping around on couches until you get that thing that you want. You want it so bad. It's just not a really pragmatic approach to life, even though it works out for some people. And you read about those stories when they win an Oscar, but the vast majority of people who do that don't win an Oscar. And I'm just choosing acting as a profession because it's that's another profession where you don't make a lot of money usually. So I'm sorry that was long-winded, but I hope that you took something out of that. I said a lot of shit. So I hope any of you watching this took a lot of things, or just one thing, or I was able to waste your time from this episode of Awkward Situations. I'm all over the place today. I'm sorry that this feels like it was just a messed up episode because I'm just, dealing with stuff in my own life, as we all are. And I'm losing my voice. I need water or something. Thanks for watching this episode of Awkward Situations. Leave your awkward situations, various stories, or whatever in the comments. And until next time, bye-bye.